channel. In today's video we're going to do part 2 of my August wrap up. Basically, if you haven't seen part 1, I'll leave it linked in the card above. But basically, I read 52 books in the month of August, and I split them into 2 parts, and this is part 2. This is basically the second half of everything that I read in August, and let's get started. The first book that I'm going to talk to you about is actually a short story collection, and it is Night Shift by Stephen King. This is a horror anthology, and I picked this one up primarily because I knew this was the anthology collection that had the Children of the Corn story in it, and I really have always loved the adaptations of Children of the Corn. I know there are 2 out there that have different themes and stuff going on, and so I wanted to know how they compared to the source material, and I knew that there were other stories in this that have been also adapted. That being said, I ended up giving this anthology a 2-star. There's a lot of fat phobia in this, like spread throughout like almost every story. I enjoyed a couple of stories more than others. However, the only one that's really worth any of your time is Children of the Corn. So if you can find that one separately, I recommend that, but otherwise I would say pass on this one. Next, I read Renegades by Marissa Meyer. This is about a society where, as it started to fail, people with superpowers started to rise up, and it follows 2 characters, one who wants justice and one who wants revenge. I ended up giving this book 4 stars. I really liked it. Clearly my favorite types of sci-fi books are those that involve superheroes. I just eat that up. This is a little cliche at times, so that's why I only gave it a 4, just as in fantasy tropes go. But I really enjoyed it, and I can't wait to get to the sequel and maybe even the conclusion when it comes out later this year. Next, I read The Academy, which I definitely picked up because it is Mulan kind of inspired, and I needed a book that was Mulan-esque for the Disney-a-thon, and I ended up giving this book 2 stars. This basically follows a girl who pretends to be her brother and goes to this all-boys school, originally as a prank. However, I found a lot of this story unbelievable and kind of like over the top, kind of unbelievable, to the point where it was kind of enjoyably laughable. However, I gave this book 2 stars, and normally plots like that would warrant a 3. However, this book has some very harmful sexual assault things going on with it, which definitely was not, handled properly, and it also was not done in a this is supposed to be seen as bad kind of way. So I ended up giving this book 2 stars. Do not recommend it. Kind of really upset that I read it, to be honest. Next, I read a book that did not disappoint me, however, and make me sad, and that is Shadow Glass by Rin Chupeco. This is the 3rd book in the Bone Witch trilogy, so I'm not going to give you too many details about what this specific one is about. However, the Bone Witch trilogy starts out with T telling her story as to how she got to where she is, and how she had rose her brother from the dead. Yes, this is a necromancy book. I ended up giving this last book a 5 stars. This series is a 5 out of 5 all the way through. I love this series. It is one of my favorite series of all time, and this series definitely brought me to my necromancy loving ways. Next, I read Love from A to Z by S.K. Ali. This is actually my 2nd S.K. Ali book, as I read her debut, and I was really looking forward to picking this one up. I was intending to read it in July for the Dragons and Tea book club, but as always, I'm reading these books a month late, and my holds finally came in from the library, so I picked this one up. This is about a girl and a boy who meet by happenstance. The girl who has been temporarily kicked out of school because of an Islamophobic teacher who has been saying some remarks that she does not approve of, and kind of confronts him about it. And the boy who kind of has recently been diagnosed with multiple sclerosis and is coming to terms with that, and they kind of meet, and obviously their story. I ended up giving this book 4 stars. There were parts of the story that felt too lengthy, and things that felt like they were resolved too quickly, specifically the storyline involving the female protagonist. However, I really overall enjoyed this story more than the author's debut, and I definitely see how she is growing as an author, and I look forward to seeing her next work. The next chunk of things I'm actually just going to talk all about together, and then I will talk about everything that I read interspersively. I read volumes 1 through 12 of Chew, the graphic novel series. This graphic novel series follows a man who, if he eats something, he can tell you its whole history. And basically, if he eats an apple, he can tell you where it was grown, what kind of pesticides and stuff like that were used on it. If he eats skin, he can tell you how the person died. I ended up really enjoying this graphic novel series. This was actually my graphic novel book club's pick. I actually ended up reading the whole thing even though nobody else did, but I really wanted to. I'm probably gonna actually do a blog post talking about like what I liked and what I didn't like for more spoily reasons. There are a couple of things that I had gripes with, however I can't talk about them because I feel like I would be spoiling the whole story otherwise. Overall, I would probably give this series an average of like a 4. So I definitely recommend picking this series up if the premise sounds interesting to you. Next, I read The Right Swipe by Alicia Wright. I received an e-arc of this through Edelweiss in exchange for an honest review. This involves the CEO of an app and her budding rivalry and potential relationship with the spokesperson for another matchmaking app, and I really liked this one, you guys. I gave this one 5 stars. Obviously, I don't want to go into too many details because romance book. Their chemistry was on point. I really loved this one. I had previously read a different Alicia Wright book and wasn't the biggest fan of it, and I think this might have been a fluke because I absolutely love this one. I was sitting there and I was like, I know I got an arc of this one, but when does the next book in this series come out? Plot and the romance intersected perfectly. It was just everything that I want in a male love interest, and it was just wonderful. I gave it 5 stars. I highly recommend this one if you're interested. Next, I read Here There Are Monsters, which I honestly, not gonna lie, I kind of forgot what the premise was when I went back into this one. I knew it was a horror mystery, and the little tagline, it has a really eerie cover, and what I remember of this book, it is super creepy sounding. However, the story is super disjointed and the protagonist is not someone you kind of want to spend time with or spend time reading about, and the atmosphere just wasn't there. Next, I read After the Fire, and this is a cult book, which is the best way to summarize it. I ended up giving it 4 stars. I also really like cult books, is a thing you probably should know about me. I really like a good cult book. This one is told in 2 perspectives, kind of alternating. It's like the before timeline and the after timeline, kind of leading up to where they meet, and it's really good. I kind of was a little thrown off by some parts of it. I felt like it wasn't as neatly woven together as I wanted it to be. Next, I read The Third Miss Durst. This I received an e-arc of through NetGalley in exchange for an honest review. Our third Miss Durst is named Marlene, and she basically is being controlled by her husband, and the previous first 2 Miss Durst, they ended up dead. Their only way out of the relationship was death. The beginning of this and the premise of this are very strong. However, the ending of this one is pretty far-fetched in my opinion. For me, the ending of a thriller really means the rating for me for a thriller. If I don't jive with the ending, I don't jive with the thriller. Plus, I was hoping to feel for the third Miss Durst, and I didn't, so I ended up giving this one a 2. Next, I read The Red Pyramid by Rick Riordan. This is the first book in the Kane Chronicles, and this follows Sadie and Carter, the Kane siblings, and it is Egyptian mythology, which is pretty exciting. I ended up giving this one 3 stars. I honestly don't super love the early writings of Rick Riordan. However, I realized it's probably because I'm an adult. I do still plan on continuing on in the series because I do overall like the story that we're reading about. It's just the writing isn't for me. So I understand that I'm not going to rate it super high because of that, but I also wasn't the biggest fan of this one's plot. Next, I read The Kept Woman by Karen Slaughter. This is the 8th book in the Will Trent series by Karen Slaughter. I am 8 books deep and I've read almost every one of Karen Slaughter's books, and I gave this one 4 stars. I don't know how to explain this one except for it can be read out of order. I don't want you to pick up this one individually without having read all the other ones. Will Trent, he works for the Georgia Bureau of Investigation and he solves crimes that happen in Georgia. As the books progress, you get more characters added on from other series that Karen Slaughter has written, and I really enjoy this one where it stands in the rest of the series. I gave this one 4 stars. There was a couple prior to this one that I didn't super love. I do love this world. I love Will Trent. He is a cinnamon roll. Next, I read A Wounded Name, which is a Hamlet retelling, which I read because I was trying to read a retelling for The Lion King, and Hamlet is the thing that The Lion King is based on, so I read a Hamlet retelling. A Hamlet retelling that follows Ophelia, which is nice to follow a woman in, you know, Hamlet's story. I unfortunately found this book really whimsical, and I gave this one 3 stars. I think if you know Hamlet's story a lot better than I do, you might enjoy this one. However, I don't super know Hamlet, so I probably wasn't the target audience for this one. Next, I read Rewind, which I received an e-arc of through NetGalley in exchange for an honest review. Basically about a voyeur and a crime, and it involves a hotel and tapes. It's really addicting. I gave this one 4 stars. Jumps back and forth in time because of the whole tapes concept, which took some time for me to get into, but the mystery literally kept me on the edge of my seat. Next, I read a manga, and it was called His Favorite. This was read purely because I needed something for a prompt for my newts, and I was running out of time, and I was starting to get stressed, and I had this checked out from the library for a while, and I wanted to try it. I don't know how to explain it. There is a boy who is super popular, and there's a boy who basically every time the super popular boy gets asked out, the super popular boy goes, oh no, I'm actually have plans with this boy, and the second boy is not super popular, and all the girls start to hate him. And turns out super popular boy has a thing for him, and I don't know if it's headed in like a fatphobic direction or if it's going in a positive direction. I'm not sure. However, I ended up giving this first one 3 stars. Might continue on just because I'm curious enough, but it's an older manga series, so it might be going in a direction I don't like. Take my manga ratings and readings with a grain of salt. Next, I read Northanger Abbey by Jane Austen. This is one of my last Jane Austen books. This was the one that was published posthumously and follows basically our sarcastic kind of tone, and I get what she was going for, but I didn't super love it. Yeah, I ended up giving this one 3 stars. I get what was going on. However, I didn't super love it. Next, I read The Constant Princess by Philippa Gregory. This is the first book of her but the ones following King Henry VIII series. I got really obsessed with 6 in August. I haven't mentioned that yet, but I got really obsessed with 6, the musical, in August. And I really wanted to read Tudor's books. And I needed to squeeze one in somewhere because I wanted to. And so this fit because I had to read a book that took place in England, and guess what? Took place in England because it was about King Henry VIII. I ended up giving this one 3 stars. I get what she was trying to do, and I hope that it improves in later volumes. She was going through all of Catherine of Aragon's life, and it was a hefty life, and she had to go through the part where she was married to Henry's brother and married to Henry, and then being married for like 30 years basically. And it was a lot to go through, and you could tell where she kind of got done with writing about Catherine, and I get it. So I gave it 3 stars. I also finally read King of Scars by Leigh Bardugo. This is the first book in the Nikolai series, also like the 6th book in the Grishaverse overall. This one follows Nikolai after the events technically of Six of Crows, because it also has Nina from Six of Crows. I ended up giving this one 3 stars. It's a little bit slower paced than I was expecting it to be, and I felt like it was a little long for it being slower paced, and I don't know where we're headed because of that. My camera angle has probably changed because my camera battery died, but we're on the very last book, American Royals by Katharine McGee. I got this at BookCon this year, and I ended up giving this one 4 stars. It is about what if, when George Washington was asked, do you want to be the monarch of the United States, he said yes, and this one I really enjoyed. It is super fun. Don't go into this one expecting, like, you know, highbrow literature. Just expect a fun time, and you'll end up having fun. I did. I gave it 4 stars. It's over the top sometimes. I was expecting it to be, which is why I gave it 4 stars, because it was over the top. Like I said, that is everything in the second part of the month of August. I am so excited that I finally got through all 52 books that I read. Super excited, not gonna lie. What about you? What did you read in August? Did you read anything that I had read? Let me know in the comments down below. I'm really interested in your opinions on any of the books that I mentioned in this video or the previous one. I post videos on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Thank you all so much for watching, and have a nice day.